Assalamu alaikum. Today, inshallah, I want us to look into some of the symbols that a lot of people have always seen in the Quran. And I know a lot of you have seen those symbols, but you wonder, what do they mean? So you've seen something like Jeem, something like Meem, Laam, Sili, Qili, or a scene like this. Or you've seen three dots very close to each other between the words. And so, what do these symbols denote in the Quran? And how do they even arrive in the Quran? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed the Quran to us in the perfect meaning and understanding. And the only one that understood complete Quran all back to back is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then the companions that lived with him and stayed with him, and those who came after them. So these people understood the Quran, and many of them were Arabs, so they understand the meaning and how the Quran should be read. But Muslims became much larger in number, and non-Arabs became Muslims. And sometimes people recite the Quran without having meaning into it. And so today we're going to talk about 7 of those symbols, like I've shown earlier. Some of them, many of the scholars regarded them as really compulsory for you to take note of them. Like for instance, when you see a lamb like this on top of a word, or when you see a meme like this on top of a word. What do they mean? Some of the symbols are denoting that you need to stop. Like the meme, for instance, denote compulsory stopping. Why? Because we have these symbols not because we want to make Quran reading harder, but these were effort by the scholars to make sure that people were not having, waqfu al-qabih. They're not having to stop on the Quran and distorting the meaning of the Quran. You'll see a lot of non-Muslims today, they read the Quran out of context intentionally. However, some Muslims recite the Quran that way, and they will stop and pause on different areas of the Quran due to maybe they cannot extend their breath. They have to stop. That is, you have to stop because of your necessity to stop. And we have al-waqfu al-ikhtiyari. We have the waqf, the stopping that you stop on the Quran letters due to your own choice of stopping. What really matters to us today is learning and understanding why the symbols are on the Quran letters and words. Some people have asked me, what does a sin on the letter on a word means? What does a sword on a letter mean? What does a Jeem on a letter mean? What does a lamb on a word mean in the Quran? So I'll talk about each of them and give 2 examples which are really important, especially the lamb and the Meem. We need to be on the look for that when we recite the Quran. The lamb means do not stop. So when you see lamb on a word, you don't stop on it. You read the word that comes after it. So when you see a meme on top of a word in Qur'an recitation, meaning that you must stop. Stopping there helps to preserve the meaning of the ayah. And so sometimes you will see seen on top of a word in the Quran. This denotes a slight pause. And sometimes perhaps you'll see a Jeem on a Quran word. This denotes it's better to stop. Okay, it's not compulsory, but it is better to stop. And sometimes you would see Qili with the qaf and the lam ya. This means it is really important to stop. But if you continue, you can either stop or continue. Right? You can either stop or continue. But when you see Sili, which is a sword like this in the Quran word, it means it is better to continue. It's not good to stop. But if you stop, there's no any problem in that. You see, the ones that are not really strict, like the Jeem, the Sin, the Qili, the Sili, and those 3 dots, these ones are not really very strict. The ones that we need to pay more attention to, and which I will bring some examples for us today to look into, is the lamb. And you will see the wisdom behind those stopping signs. And so people will ask, why do we need to read these and stop here or not? There are many reasons why you have to try to abide with the rules of stopping and starting in Quran recitation. Some of them, this is how the Rasulullah recited the Quran, and the Sahaba, they documented it, and they recite exactly the same way. And some of the symbols that you have on the Quran today were not invented or were not given by the Rasulullah. These were symbols in which scholars who came after the Sahaba tried to put in the Quran to help to guide non-Arabs to understand the meaning and how and when to stop. And this also helped us to pause and rest our breath. I'm going to give you an ayah and see what mistake or what changes will cause to an ayah if you stop on it. In Surah Tawbah, Allah said, وَأَذَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ إِلَى النَّاسِ يَوْمَ الْحَجِّ الْأَكْبَرِ أَنَّ اللَّهَ بَرِيءٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ وَرَسُولُهُ. You see, if you look at that ayah, mushrikeen, there's a lam on it. So the meaning of that ayah is that Allah is not the helper. Allah is not in support of this mushrikeen, right? Allah is not their friend. Allah is not their ally. Allah is not the ally of the polytheists of Mecca, the disbelievers. But if you stop on the mushrikeen, it means you're saying only Allah alone is not the ally. The prophets could be an ally of the mushrikeen. And so that's why the lam is put there for you to pronounce the word Rasulu as well. So meaning that Allah and His Messenger are not the allies of the polytheist. So that's why it said, وَأَذَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ إِلَى النَّاسِ يَوْمَ الْحَجِّ الْأَكْبَرِ أَنَّ اللَّهَ بَرِيءٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ وَرَسُولُهُ. Right, that's the perfect way to recite it. وَرَسُولُهُ, you stop on that. But if you stop and say, أَنَّ اللَّهَ بَرِيءٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, so you excluded the Prophet ﷺ from not being an ally of the mushrikeen. Whereas Allah meant in the ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet ﷺ are not allies of the mushrikeen. Imagine that. So you have to put both together. And that's why it's so important. Another example, which in Surah Al-An'am Allah mentioned, and this is an example of Meem, when you see a Meem on top of a word in the Quran. So this ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah said, إِنَّمَا يَسْتَجِيبُ الَّذِينَ يَسْمَعُونَ وَالْمَوْتَى يَبْعَثُهُمُ اللَّهُ ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُونَ. If you stop on that meme, which is compulsory stop, it means إِنَّمَا يَسْتَجِيبُ الَّذِينَ يَسْمَعُونَ, that those who will obey and listen to your da'wah, or you Prophet ﷺ, are those who have a living heart. Those who listen and obey your message and listen to your da'wah are those who are hearing, those who hear. Not everyone that have ears can understand and listen. Some people can have ears and their ears is just for beautification. It's not useful, right? So Allah is saying that those who will believe in the da'wah and hear the message are those who have a living heart. Their heart is life. Their heart is not dead. So Allah now say, وَالْمَوْتَى يَبْعَثُهُمُ اللَّهُ ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُونَ. And those who have dead hearts, they will not listen. That is the opposite meaning of those who listen, right? Those who listen to the message, these are people that have their hearts still alive. وَالْمَوْتَى, and so those who are not having a living heart, their heart is dead, they will not listen to the message. يَبْعَثُهُمُ اللَّهُ, Allah will resurrect them, and to Him is their return. So the ayah is saying that those who have listened, or those who will listen to the message of the Prophet, these are people that have a living heart in them. However, the opposite side of the ayah, those who have dead hearts will not listen, and Allah will resurrect them, and to Allah their return. That's why that meme there is important, to separate the meaning of this opposite, understanding from that ayah. If you recite it and you say, إِنَّمَا يَسْتَجِيبُ الَّذِينَ يَسْمَعُونَ وَالْمَوْتَى يَبْعَثُهُمُ اللَّهُ ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُونَ. What you're saying there is that both those who have a living heart, and those who have a dead heart will listen to the message of the Prophet. You see that? Taking that meme out of that ayah changes the entire meaning of that word. Although you're not intentionally wanting to change the meaning of the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the ayah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but to Arabs or to those who understand Arabic, when you recite it and stop, it gives complete understanding of that ayah, as we see here, right? So when you stop on that meme, it segments the ayah into two parts. That those who have a living heart are the ones that will only hear the message of the Prophet, but those whose heart is dead will not listen, and Allah will resurrect them, and to Allah their return. See, this is helping you to segment the meaning and making it having good sense. But when you don't put the meme and you just take it off and you recite everything, it dilute everything and mess it up. The signs on the Quran have 4 reasons. 1, for us to reflect on the meaning of that ayah, and for us to follow the traditions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the tradition of the Rasulullah in reciting the Quran. It's like you reciting a book and just reciting, the man is from Pakistan, and he's 8 years old, and he has 2 kids. You keep saying that you don't have those pausing, your statement will be meaningless to the public. So people will not be able to understand what you say. But because a lot of Muslims who are non-Arabs cannot understand how to segment and how to make sure they recite the Quran perfectly. So those symbols are really helpful for you when you see them in the Quran. From today, now try to understand what they mean. So to recap it, when you see the lam on top of a word, meaning do not stop on that word, continue reading, maybe at least read the second word that comes after it. So lam means do not stop. And when you see a meme, it means stop on that word, that you see that tiny meme, right? As you see it here on this ayah. But if you see a Jeem, meaning you can either continue or you can stop. So you have leeway, right? If you see a Jeem on top of a word, it means you can either stop or continue. But when you see a qili, which is a qaf with a lam, yeah, or qaf only on a word, it means it is better to stop. Please stop. It's better, but it's not compulsory, right? And but when you see a sili, like a sound like this on a word, it means it's better to continue, so do not stop. But if you stop, no haraj. But if you continue, which is the best? And when you see a sin on top of a word, like وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ, you don't have a complete stop, but you pause. وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ, when the soul is going out of the body, and Allah is asking, who is gonna take care of this soul from not dying? No one can save the soul. Who's gonna save the soul? No one. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used this ayat to ask rhetorical question in the Quran many times. So it's a lot of understanding, but you don't have to worry because you're not an expert, you're not a sheikh. You don't need to understand the entire meaning. So when you see those symbols, they give you guidance on how to pronounce, when to stop, when not to stop. So I hope this lesson benefits you today, inshallah. If you're interested in getting yourself to learn to recite the Quran and be a fluent reciter of the Quran, there's a link below this video. You can tap and see how we can help you perfect your recitation in the next 4 months. If it's for your child, there's a video. You see how we do the program. And if it interests you, if it makes sense, the fit for you, complete the application form and tap to book your admission call with us so we can see if we can have you in the program. It's so limited spots in this course, but if you're really excited and you want to learn to be an expert reciter of the Quran, tap the link below this video in the description and you get to see how you can join us in this wonderful 4-month program that can help you or your child to master Quran and reading fluency in just 4 months, inshallah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you and to bless our family altogether. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us all enter Jannatul Firdaus. Ameen. Subhanaka Allahumma hamdik wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.